impeccable credentials. The Judicial Service Commission wrote a very restrictive requirement that you must be present to present your credentials. Present. Digital transformation. Madam Justice Bosa was out of the country, and this was intended purposely to block her out. She sent an email, copied to the bar. Please, can you extend this by a few days so I can present my papers in person? The Judicial Service Commission, where we have 2 female representatives, stiletto representatives, wrote back and said, we will not be doing any extension of time. So she had to ask for table bangers to do what we do best and ensure that they receive those papers. And I thank the table bangers and the Observer for doing a great job. You can Google that article, it reads like a film. It reads like a film. How Justice Bosa went to the ICC. Really? This is how we reward our best talent? Pause and think about that. And I think many women don't know these stories. You're given the Narungas as role models. Where were they when Justice Bosa needed them? I want to stop there on the first question. For the second question, how many women survived that? Oh, that's a lot. We have a Chiwanka problem. That is the singular, granular representation of what threatens the rule of law, democracy, and good governance in this country. A charlatan, a rascal with a PC, a robe, and a Twitter account access the most important office for these values, known as the Office of Attorney. I wrote what pretends to be a Kabumba-like essay. Who has read it? Because I have abandoned to give. Who has read it? Students only. Who knows what I'm talking about? It's a shame, it's a shame, it's a shame. It's a shame. Who knows it? Who is Googling it? Okay, let's open it. Yes, stand up and shoot quickly. Title. Wrong. Title. No, you're back in my team. Colleagues, you can't even cheat. All right, let me give it to Mr. Okay. All right, colleagues, it's called Ejich Yowachwanka is the wrong man for the wrong job. That was my Solomonic address to the bar. Just a week after he had been appointed. I suffered massive persecution after that article. But we were in a pandemic, and a pandemic means you think of only mortal danger, the end of days, the end of nights, the end of life. I owed it to Ugandans to warn them that you think you've seen worse. My colleague shoot us to be nice. You had seen nothing. I covered all ages, and I said, you know what, Shwanka would be the one. So I will stop there. Is that a warning? Oh, 3 minutes. 4 minutes. The story of my persecution was private to me and my family only. I took a great risk to come back to this country in July to do a case that I couldn't hand over to anybody else. And while there, in the Supreme Court, some colleagues in the media informed their sources that we have seen Isaac for sure. For sure. The Rasta is in court. It's in court, so they whispered in my ear that some senior lawyers who want to talk to you to apologize for not having taken you seriously when you warned them about this charlatan. Chiewa Chwamka singularly threatens the independence of the judiciary. If you need Exhibit A, you have Farida Ukiwa. Chiewa Chwamka singularly threatens independence of the legal profession. Now these are doctrinal concepts for which time is it available. But I have done my best to use the limelight of this moment to sue Chiewa Chwamka personally for holding the office of Protectorate Attorney General instead of the Attorney General under Article 119 of the 1995 Constitution. That wisdom is only in this room. Outside that room, he has bootlickers, goodies, suck-ups, sissies, telling him he's the very best, and most of them are even gray-haired. So I want to stop here and say, I am standing for the President of Law Society to take a pulpit superior to his. Chiewa Chwamka, Chiewa Chwamka, Attorney General, Chief Justice, DPP, I am standing to bury Chiewa Chwamka.
Can you please come and take your 10 minutes to answer the 2 questions? What do you perceive to be the most pressing rule of law issue in Uganda today? And if elected president, what would you do to address this? And 2, which past president of Uganda Law Society do you admire most and why?
Stiletto lawyers, I do not agree with the characterization of people using those words, but I will defend to death my brother's right to use them. He is most certainly within his rights to do so. And I would look forward to being called a goody-goody. Ladies and gentlemen, the most pressing rule of law issue in this country. The most pressing rule of law issue is there. It is there for you to see. You do not need to look. You do not need to look very far. the president of this country is elected by the people of Uganda. All members of parliament are elected by the people of Uganda. Whether the elections are free and fair, that's a different question. But sovereignty lies with the people. The judiciary, on the other hand, I am not sure how many of you can confidently say that you participated in the appointment of some of our judicial officers in this country, or any. That is the genesis of all our problems, in my view. As a result, you have a judiciary that must always bend to the dictates of the executive and sometimes parliament. Independence of the judiciary becomes a thing of textbooks. And that, my friends, is the problem. And this is compounded by the fact that we have a president who has been with us for some time. So with that kind of infrastructure and length of our president's tenure in office, you have a crisis of the rule of law. You had the Chief Justice not so long ago. He said the president is the final appellate court. Yes, he said it at Robert Benedict Chiwanuka Day. But he's not just the final appellate court. He's also an intervention court. That if there is a matter which is proceeding and the president thinks there is a problem, he has the right to intervene. He does not have the right in law, but he can intervene. That, my friends, is the problem. I believe in incremental change. I believe in progressive realization of the ideals of democracy. That sometimes our own culture inhibits the realization of those values that we stand for. But I think we must be deliberate. I think law society must have a key role to play. So, how are we going to ensure that the independence of the judiciary is secure? Our president is now 80 years. Our president is now 80 years. And we're already hearing of transition talks. Ladies and gentlemen, are we going to have another godfather after the current president? Ladies and gentlemen, that's the conversation we should have. How do we guard against another godfather? After Moi, things stabilized in Kenya. Nyerere was the last of his kind in Tanzania. My view is we should not have. How many of you have watched Godfather? Yeah? If you've watched Godfather, we should not have Al Pacino back to. Okay? So, what are some of the things that we need to do and we need to be at the forefront of? One, constitutional reforms. Uganda Law Society has no position paper on the state of the rule of law in this country. We don't have a paper. If right now Uganda Parliament is about to consider constitutional reforms, I believe, but if they asked the president of the Uganda Law Society what is the society's position, he would not tell you. I believe we need to have a position paper on the reforms that we need under our constitution. Restore term limits, have public participation in the appointment of judges. These are very key things which are central to our democracy. Now you hear they want to take away universal adult suffrage. Are we ready for that? Can we as Uganda Law Society have a position on that? We need to have a position on where we are in terms of constitutionalism and advocate for constitutional reforms that will not allow us, that will allow us not to have Al Pacino in Godfather Part. But also, we must always remain firm. We must remain vigilant. I've already given the example of the Law Society of Pakistan. How when the president there suspended the Chief Justice. And this was 2007. The Law Society took to the streets in protest. The Chief Justice was reinstated. He was reinstated. So we must remain firm. We must speak candidly when one of our own is threatened, when judicial independence is threatened. And we have done this before. We have so many examples to draw from. There is a time when we didn't have a substantive Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice. Law Society boycotted the annual rule of law day that year. And as a result, the Chief Justice and DCJ were appointed. We are now going to, the CJ and DCJ are about to retire within next year. How are we positioning ourselves for that conversation? Because the next CJ and DCJ are going to be critical for our constitutional progress. And we must be involved in that process as necessary. Our voice must be heard. We must appoint people who are grounded in the rule of law, people who are grounded in justice, people who are grounded in respect for people's freedoms, people with the courage and resolve to decide on critical matters of the day. You saw what the Chief Justice of Kenya did when they arraigned anti-corruption protesters before. She said the courts are not going to be used as a conduit by the executive. And as a result, all people who are being arraigned before the courts were granted non-cash bail. In Uganda here, what was the position? A certain anti-corruption protester turns up in court, the state attorney disappears. And the magistrate remands the guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Law Society is at a critical juncture. I need you to look around you. Things are changing and they are changing very fast. We are at a critical moment, actually. It's such a good time to be alive. It's such a good time to be. It's a good time to be alive. We are at a critical juncture in our country's constitutional progress. Reforms are being introduced. I think this will be the first reform after 2005. So, how do we position ourselves for that conversation? And that's what my presidency is offering.
Thank you very much. The 10 minutes are run out. All of them were to be answered. So thank you very much. Yes. Candidate Kenneth Kipalu has emphasized the issue of judicial independence and the competence of the judicial players to restore this country to the rule of law that we desire as stipulated in the Constitution. And then Council Isaac Semakarde, yes, has emphasized that the problem, legal rebel, has emphasized that Uganda's problem solving lies in the Attorney General, and that is why our rule of law is going down the drain. So, okay. Now we've come to the moment where the two candidates pose questions to each other. ask the question.
Where is the microphone? Tip. Back on track. Chidema Zonka.